Yeah, hi. I'm super excited to be here today. Let me just start sharing my screen. I'm really excited to be here with you all to kick off your career week at Avenue Code. As Hannah said, it's a very big deal to kind of be happy in something that you're doing all of the time and making sure that you're getting the most out of it and fulfilled from whatever you choose to do. So, I'm going to kind of talk through how I kind of navigate and am navigating my own career labyrinth and share some strategies or things that I keep in mind to keep myself inspired and find my way. So, and also we will have some time at the end of the session if you want to ask any questions. So let's get started. So first off, I know that Hannah gave me a really good intro, but you're probably wondering, who is this lady? Why are we talking to her? And why is she talking about the career labyrinth? Well, I am glad you asked. I am Cassandra Brown and currently a VP of Engineering at Bitly. Everyone calls me Cassie, as Hannah did, and my pronouns are she, her. If you would like to connect with me on LinkedIn, please do scan the QR code, and I would love to chat with any one of you or start, a conversation about any of this stuff if any of it resonates with you. I first came into contact with people at Avenue Code through Caro. You probably know Caro, an extraordinary women in technology community. And I am absolutely honored to be here speaking to all of you today to kind of illuminate some of my challenges and changes that I have seen throughout my career thus far. And I hope that at least some of this may resonate for each of you at some point. And as you're considering and planning out your career at Avenue Code, I hope it resonates with you. And to answer the last question of why talking about career paths as a labyrinth? Well, aside from the fact that I am a human who also has had my own career and path, and I have experienced successes and failures in a variety of ways, I kind of wanted to talk through or debunk the common myth of your career journey being a ladder or a solid progression over time. So we've all kind of heard the metaphors, climb the corporate ladder, which may invoke the idea of some sort of ladder, with an end goal in sight, or a stairway that, perhaps ends in a big office and a big title, and you can say, oh, I made it. But I am here to talk to you all about how I think these metaphors can be slightly dangerous, especially for perfectionists like me, the type A personality that must get to the next rung, and it becomes kind of ingrained in my self-worth and identity. And on top of that, there is honestly no end to a career journey or path. You can get to that big office and then realize maybe this is exactly what I had planned or what I had meant it to be. So there's really not an end. And, so I would like to argue that career journeys actually look a bit more like this little chaos map here. And yes, this is me confused as to where I've been and how I got here. Because rather than a strict progression, just like life, careers have twists, turns, dead ends, curves, pivots, backtracking, and yes, even the occasional standing there, scratching your head, wondering what's happening or what's next for me. And I would be lying to say that I got to where I am today at Bitly by following a ladder or a staircase, and following a straight linear path. And there have been so many times, I probably can't even think of them all, where I had to take a leap, a pivot, or pause to figure out my next move. And so I kind of want to talk through the labyrinth that I went through, and then kind of, hopefully we can hear a little bit from all of you all and, in the Q&A. So before we kind of jump into the strategies or the wisdom that I'm trying to bring to the table today, I want to ground us all in a quote that has always grounded me when making big changes or moves. And this is by Steve Jobs, tech genius, and usually pretty insightful in his verbiage or words or quotes. You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. This approach has never let me down, and it has made all the difference in my life. So the first time I really grounded myself in this quote was when I decided to leave a pretty stable and relatively easy for me job at a big corporation. I had just had a baby less than a year prior and returned from maternity leave. I had been at this company for 6 years, and for all intents and purposes, I had climbed the ladder at this company. From a college grad with my master's degree, I started as a junior level support engineer and rose to the senior principal support engineer role. I continued in my 6 years there, taking on more and more challenges, but eventually I felt kind of stifled, siloed, and unable to grow. I hit the glass ceiling, so to speak, at this place. I didn't think I could learn more or grow more here. But I had just had a baby. I was putting my husband through medical school, and leaving a pretty stable job would have been a really terrible idea, right? I think so. But I kind of followed this advice about connecting the dots in the future, and I did leave that job, the security of a large corporation, and I went to a small startup, which was basically the exact opposite of what I had been used to since graduating. And when I made that decision, I continued to repeat these words over and over, hoping to goodness that it would make sense at some point in the future that I made this decision. And that is just kind of one of the big moves that I've made in my own career labyrinth. And it's worked out, as we can see, and I can connect the dots. All right, so, and now that I've probably freaked you out with the chaos map of what a career could look like, and then hopefully gave you some inspiration with some wisdom from Steve Jobs, let's talk strategies for navigating your career labyrinth. The first strategy I will kind of discuss is embracing exploration. So similar to what kind of Hannah mentioned in the beginning about Career Week, honestly, constantly searching and growing and seeking your new opportunities, having that growth mindset. Second is learn from the dead ends. Yes, we will all reach those, and we have to adjust, have a growth mindset, and be adaptable to change. Then, after a dead end or in the midst of figuring out what to do, you have to find some light. And to do that, you can do it through mentoring, networking, the Extraordinary Women in Tech community, for example. And last but not least, you should always mark your path and celebrate where you've been and all the things that you have done so that you can connect the dots, and also you can kind of build your confidence and your skill set as you go forward in your careers. All right, so I already started a story on my exploration in my own maze. So embracing exploration, I leaned into the unknown when I jumped to a startup from a big corporation. And I also leaned into the unknown while I was there. I mean, I started supporting a single product out of college, and I slowly grew and kept asking for more responsibility, more products. I kept raising my hand, and that helped me really go through the ladder quite quickly, reaching the top of the individual contributor track in the 6 years that I was there, because I was honestly always looking for new challenges. And when I hit the top rung, I also pivoted a little, right? I applied to an internal role that was the same level, but it was different. And I got to do more programming, and it was in the same department, but it was a different experience. And I got to learn and grow from that. So I got a lot of growth from leaning into the unknown. And sometimes we don't have to get promoted to progress. Sometimes it's more about your experience that you're receiving and the responsibilities that you're taking on. And I think that's an important mindset shift from the corporate ladder myth that we're kind of debunking here, is that you might not be growing, you might pivot to a different role that's a better fit for you, but it's the same level, and you're going to learn new things, and it's going to be awesome. So lean into the unknown. Make sure you raise your hand, even if you're not sure if you'd be good at it. I mean, we're never good at things the first time. What I tell my children, whenever they're like, I'm not good at this, not yet. Even if you're scared to do it, just do it. How do we get better? By doing things. And this also helps you grow, not only as an employee and in your career path, but as a person. And so when you are raising your hand and leaning into that unknown, guess what? You'll also find new things that you really enjoy. So having that growth mindset, you find new passions. And for me, this has looked a lot like leaning more into mentoring, public speaking, and new technologies. For example, I was telling Hannah, I'm not the biggest fan of public speaking, like in the beforehand, but afterwards I feel really good about it. And I think a lot of people are like this, but it was my least favorite class in college, public speaking, no. But as my career has progressed over time, I realized that I actually really enjoy it, because I get to meet new people and I get to learn about their experiences as well as share some of mine. And, that's a really powerful platform. So that's, for me, what kind of leaning in and finding new passions has done. But for you, it could be anything. As long as you just keep learning and growing, you'll find new things to enjoy at work or outside of work. I think, lots of people always say it's never too late to do whatever you want, like whatever path is ahead of you. And lastly, as part of embracing the exploration of your career and also your life, is you just need to keep looking for signs. Follow your gut, but also follow what the universe is telling you. For my example, when I went to the small startup, that job found me. A recruiter reached out to me on LinkedIn, and I took the interview, which led to more interviews, which led to me loving the opportunity. Was I scared? Heck yes. Was my inner imposter on high alert, telling me that I could not do it? Definitely. Did I cry after the technical interview? Oh, absolutely. You bet I did. But I did it anyway, and I made the leap. And honestly, it was the best decision for my career. And looking back, I can connect those dots now. I didn't know at the time, but I can definitely do it now. So just leaving this slide at embrace the unknown, lean in, and just do it anyway, and keep looking for the signs, because things will show up for you. But of course, it isn't all sunshine and rainbows, right? Sometimes maybe we lean in and find out, oh gosh, that's awful. I really don't like that. Or maybe we realize that we're in a space that we don't belong. Whatever the reason, we all hit dead ends in our career and our life. I mean, it's just not your career, it's your life. And while these moments can feel super defeating and you're unsure of yourself, how you can pick yourself up, it's okay. We all experience it. So how do we handle these dead ends? First step, after accepting and acknowledging you can't go forward, you pick yourself up, and don't get flustered if you have to backtrack. So for example, after I graduated college with a degree in English literature and computer science, I did not know what I was doing with my life. Some say I don't even know now. Okay, I say that. So I went and got a job at a local engineering firm as an administrative assistant. At that time, I was just debating, do I go back to graduate school? But I enjoyed the time and the experience I got working there. And I also was able to raise my hand, and I did more IT work for them because they didn't have one. And after a year, I decided this wasn't it. And I backtracked and went back to school and asked for my old job back at a restaurant. So I literally went back in time, basically. I was like, okay, I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to go work at the restaurant I worked in during my undergrad, and I'm going to figure this out going forward. So yes, I backtracked, and I was okay with that. And I also knew more about myself and things I could accomplish and how to move forward from there. Another important thing that I'm still teaching myself, even to this day, and this is for the second point here, is that rejection is normal. We all get rejected. I'm just going to leave that there for a second because it's very powerful. I don't think we all realize how normal rejection is. We all get it, whether it's your big pitch at work or that job you really, really wanted. I'm just going to say it again. Rejection is normal. Going back to my backtrack earlier, the first time I was truly rejected was before I took the admin assistant job. I had been an intern at a publishing house for over 2 years. I had applied for a full-time role thinking, I've been here, I know everyone, I know the work, I'm gonna get this job. It was meant to be, right? Looking for the signs, the universe was showing me. Wrong. The day I got rejected for that job was the first of my many, what now moments in my life. And this spurred me to apply for the admin assistant role, and it helped me grow in different ways and ultimately led me to the career I have today. So listening to the universe and also taking in the rejection, hitting the wall and going, okay, maybe I'm going to backtrack. Maybe I'm going to go over here for a little and then we'll see what happens. But that was not my one and only rejection. Even before I came to Bitly, I had interviewed for a management role at a very big SaaS company. Once again, I thought I was a shoo-in. It was actually a step back to my current title and role. I went to the final interview, nervous as can be. I cried afterwards. Yes, I do that a lot. Ultimately, they went with another candidate. And after that, I said, what now? I found a sign that sent me to Bitly just a few months later. And here I am today, 4 years later. So that's, rejection is normal. And sometimes that is the sign that you're looking for. And last but not least, sometimes dead ends might not appear to be dead ends. You can think you can keep on going, but the truth is not every environment or role is going to be a good fit for you forever. And if it isn't working anymore, it isn't working. And it is okay to admit this to yourself. This has happened to me at the startup that I had told you about. And it is also the one that led me to applying to other jobs, including the one that rejected me before Bitly. And I realized I was no longer happy there. I had hit a plateau and a ceiling, and it was time to move on. So it's okay. Sometimes that happens, and it's okay for you to acknowledge that and do what's best for you and your career and your life. Okay, so next, we've talked about dead ends and we've talked about exploring. And in the midst of all of this, man, it can be really isolating and tiring, right? So what are some other things that are really important when you're on these journeys? Because you feel like sometimes I'm all alone. I must be the only person that has gotten 20 rejections in the last, I'm the only person who's, in this particular situation. And it's very important to kind of find some light in those moments. We all need a little light in our lives, especially when we are traversing through a super confusing labyrinth or career or life in general. Anyway, to find the light, you honestly have to look for it sometimes. And that may come in a lot of ways. So first, look for mentors. So other people who you admire or who have landed somewhere that you find admirable. Sometimes all it takes is, you find that person and you say, can I pick your brain? And more often than not, they'll say yes, because people love helping other people, and we all genuinely want to see others succeed. So ask someone. And I will say that I have had a ton of mentors throughout my journey in tech, whether they be a person that I tapped on the shoulder one time because I had just started a new role and I was like, hey, you've done this role for a long time. Can I talk? And so I can know what to do and what to expect. And they were like, yeah, sure. And it was about an hour conversation and it was wonderful. And then there's the mentors that just continue helping you throughout your journey that you kind of consistently go back to, right? And you might not even be, like officially mentor mentee, but someone who just kind of is around and helps guide you when you need it. So find a mentor, guys, just ask, and then be the light. Lastly, not lastly, but very importantly, be the light. Sometimes you have to be that light in order to see the light. That's right. I said it. Where you are today, someone else has wanted to be. We all have something we can offer someone. So volunteer your own time, mentor others, and offer a helping hand, because we learn from everyone that we meet. And I know this now more than ever. Lastly, on this slide for finding your light, find a cohort of humans, or I've also heard that called your own personal board of directors. So a group of people who can lift you up and find your way when you get lost. This could be coworkers, friends, spouses. It can be your children, someone to center you and ground you when you feel like the journey is just too much, or someone to pick you up after you hit that 50th dead end and you're like, oh, what now? I have so many of these humans, it would do an injustice to not name them all, but I will just say that if it weren't for one of them, I would have never applied at Bitly. And you know what? I wouldn't be here today where I am. So find your people, find your people. And then last but not least, in the journey that's never ending of the mazes, mark your path. We are embracing our exploration. We've learned from a lot of dead ends and we're still doing that. We're finding and being light for others. And all the while, we should be constantly marking our path, connecting the dots, seeing where we've succeeded and seeing what we can do when we didn't, oh, this was a dead end. We should avoid that in the future. But most importantly, we should celebrate every success, every single one, no matter how small, no matter how mundane and insignificant it feels. We should be enjoying this journey as best we can. Turn those dead ends into new challenges, find and meet new people, grow yourself, and celebrate each and every step. After all, there is no ultimate end or some shining beacon, some big fancy office. I mean, there probably are those, but is that the end? No, it's definitely not. And if you get there, it's not an exit to your maze. You're still in it. You're still in the maze. You're still figuring stuff out. So you may as well enjoy every step and acknowledge every step and continue going, and enjoy the journey as best you can. So that is my presentation for today. And I would love to open it up for questions if anyone has any, or any comments or talk. I would love to also just hear if any of this resonated with folks.
feel free to use the chat or to open your microphones here to share. Ju, please.
Hi. I'd like just to say thank you. I love this idea of connecting the dots. I remember that I saw this Steve Jobs say, I think he said that in a Stanford graduation or something like that. And I always got confused. How could I see the dots and connect it? And now I think with your presentation, I kind of know, and I kind of recognizing some dots that I'm already putting them together. So thank you for that.
Love it. Thank you.
I can see. So just wanted to thank you for sharing a bit of your experience and your learnings. But also one thing that you said caught my attention when you talk about public speaking. Well, it happened exactly the same for me. And we know that this is a challenge to a lot of people. So what do you consider the helped you to be more comfortable with public speaking?
That's a great question. And the only thing I can say is practice, exposure to it. The more you do it, the easier it gets. I mean, yeah. And being really prepared. Script writing, I mean, you can go off script, but having something as your kind of like your catch you just in case is really important, because then you feel prepared. Like, even if I go off and I get stuck, I have something to go back to. So practice and preparation.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cassie, you were talking about the dots. And as a career advisor here, I listen to many stories and many career paths at Avenue Code. And one thing that I know people have some difficulty to do is to recognize what kind of dots are they going to celebrate, or kind of dots they are going to put on a spotlight. Not measuring if it's big or small, but what are they going to put on spotlight? Do you have any tips or things that you realize back there and you can give us a suggestion? I think it's going to be a good one to talk.
Yeah, I mean, that's hard because I think you definitely don't know the dot. Usually you don't know the dot when you're in it. You know what I'm saying? If that makes sense. Like, it's your moment in time. You might be kind of, this is just another day in the maze. And that's where I think, celebrating your successes, or like really taking moments in your day-to-day life to see what you've been doing, what you've accomplished. And it also helps build your confidence of like, look at all those things that I did like over the last 3 or 4 years, and look where I am now, and what's next for me. So I mean, sometimes you'll know that, okay, this is a defining moment for myself. Like, maybe it's like that big rejection, or maybe it's that realization that you can no longer grow in your current space, or maybe it's, something kind of like real defining. But for the smaller pieces, or the things that are just kind of like, you're just building on top of, almost like Jenga, you don't know which ones until later on, when you're kind of like looking back and seeing all the zigzags that you've gone through, and you're like, oh yeah, that actually really helped me now in where I am today.
Thank you. So do you have more questions? Oh, Adriano, please.
Hi, thank you, Cassandra, for your presentation. It was very enlightening. You said something about imposter syndrome. I believe that's something every one of us will or are facing sometime in our lives. But this is something, for me, it's actually really hard to work with, because my imposter syndrome is always talking very loud in my head, so even though people are saying like you're doing a good job, it's hard for me to accept that. What kinds of tips would you give for us to deal with that?
Whew, yeah. So I also have a very loud imposter syndrome voice most of the time. And, you know, kind of going back into raising your hand and doing it anyway, be scared, do it anyway. And also another thing that has been kind of different, or something that I've tried to do recently, which has also helped, is to quiet the voice, come up with a different story that it's trying, right? So like you have it saying like, you're not going to be able to do this presentation. It's going to be horrible. You're going to say way too many times and it's not going to go well. And instead you can say, I've done this, and it all went well. And then last but not least, what's the worst that could happen? So like recognizing when it's the imposter talking to you, and when it's, you know, that person doesn't want you to succeed. That imposter is like, you know, and it is lying to you basically. So noticing it and then saying like, oh yeah, but I have all of this input that shows that I can do this and I will. And that has been really helpful as well.
Great. It's pretty much like you said, like connecting and mapping the dots, the things you have accomplished. It's easier for you to look in the past and see like, wow, I have done all of this. Thank you.
Exactly. And anytime your imposter comes knocking, just be like, but I marked my path and look at all these things I've done. So
Nice. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, please.
Thank you, Hannah. Hello, Cassandra. Thank you for your insights. I'm just thinking that sometimes I think that our ups and downs in career are associated with our performance at some position that we are working with. And I want to know, how do you manage expectations when you reach those dead ends?
I guess it depends on the scenario of managing. Are you talking about managing expectations of your coworkers or of yourself?
I'm thinking more about the coworkers, the environment that have some expectations about your performance at work, and you've just reached the dead end and you're not comfortable with your career, and sometimes you may feel down and your performance gets low as well.
Yeah, so that's tough. It's a tough scenario you're talking about. And I think going back to the dead end about, you know, if it's not for you, if you don't feel like you're able to do your best work anymore, then it's okay to acknowledge that and try to find something that will fit for you. Because at the end of the day, I mean, we spend a lot of time at work. We want to feel good about the work we do. We want to be happy in it. We don't want to, and if we're forcing it, it is going to impact your performance, and it will impact, you know, the others around you, and kind of create like, I mean, I've experienced this, you know, if you're trying to like force it, it's like creates almost like toxicity and like, oh, I just cannot do this another day. And so I think it's hard because sometimes you have to go jump. Maybe you have to go backwards. Maybe you have to find a different role or a different place that fits you better. But you have to acknowledge that and just kind of, you know, work towards your next move.
Like being transparent, right? It's the best way.
Yes, exactly. With yourself and your peers.
Thank you.
We have 2 comments here on the chat. One from William, that he's telling that what work is the best for him is trying to reassure himself and that he's doing his best, and he did all that he could to be prepared to the challenge in the place. I think it's like almost a mental work there to help you. And João Pedro, he's talking about the importance of taking a step back. Cassandra, do you want to comment something about this taking steps back? How important are that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the comment here about having, sometimes the market isn't super great. Sometimes you are in a spot where you know you don't belong. This is where you embrace your exploration and you can learn things about yourself and continue to have that growth mindset. So it sounds like, you know, based on this comment, we've all, several of us have experienced this in the past, and like you end up learning how, you know, new skills, or you kind of learn like what is better fit for you, or maybe what is absolutely not a good fit. So yeah, I think that just doing the best you can. And then I want to go back to Lillian's comment about doing the best you can. I literally say that to myself like 100 times a day. Well, I did the best I can. And, you know, there's nothing else I could have done. And that's okay. And another thing I'll just mention is that always has really stuck with me. I took a class once on assertiveness, and they talked a lot about you only own 50% of any interaction, and whoever you're with owns the other 50%. And so as long as I know I come to the 50% doing my best, then if it's not the right fit, if it doesn't go well, that's okay, because I did what I could. And so.
Yeah, and you were talking about recognize yourself, and I always remember Brené Brown when we were talking about this. You have to be vulnerable enough to recognize that we were good at this or that we were bad at it, and to learn from all these points that happen in our career. And something that always also connected me, Cassie, is when we were talking about find your people. Because many times at Career Advisor, people tell that like their career journey, like they're doing everything alone. And it's hard. So find your people was something that I think it's one of the best advices ever. You have to have this kind of people around you, people that are going to help you, people that are going to embrace your vulnerability, people that are going to give you the courage when everything is falling apart, and to celebrate with you the dots. So I think find your people is something amazing.
100%. Yeah. I mean, we are not, I mean, humans in general, we're all very social creatures. And I'm gonna steal another quote from another author that's basically goes, none of me is original. I am the combined effort of everyone I've ever known. And so we are never alone. And every interaction that we have and every experience that we have changes us in some way. And it's important to find the people that change you in the right way and help you grow. And so, yeah.
Yeah, there is a Brazilian person that I admire a lot. She's called Sophie Esteves, and she always tells her story starting with this sentence: everything that I am is everybody that I know. So
I love it.
It's amazing.
That's right. That's great.
Yeah.
Love it.